Hello everyone, thanks for popping over to Books and Budget today. I am presenting a Penguin English Library kind of collection overview. So all of the editions of the Penguin English Library collection that I have in my possession. Some of them I've read, some of them I have not. Some I've read but in another edition physically over the course of my lifetime. But I've got, let's see, a little, maybe about 15 here, so I just wanted to show them to you. They're some of my favorite books in terms of edition, and they're beautiful classics, and they're pretty affordable too. So first things first, I will kind of do a little overview of the Jane Austen editions that I have. The first being Persuasion. Oops, sorry, I'm out of frame. Persuasion. And it is worth noting, as you can kind of see in on the edges here, all of them have the kind of classic penguin orange border, but it makes a really beautiful kind of rainbow on your shelves. Anyways, Persuasion with the feather decor. All of the ones that I have are the very floppy, true paper texture. They give a small synopsis on the back, and most of them have a foreword or an afterword or both. 249 pages in this edition. Next up, we have Northanger Abbey. I have not read this either. I haven't read Persuasion or Northanger Abbey in any copy. I think the next of the Austens that I will read is Persuasion, but we've got pretty vintage keys here, and then here is our synopsis. So this is the story of the charming Catherine Morland, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is sort of a satirical novel to some degree. It's sort of her making fun of the Gothic style of the time. We have Sense and Sensibility. I read it in this edition and in others. This is the story of two sisters, Marianne and, what's the other one? Marianne and, let's see if I can find it really quickly, Eleanor. And just to give like a kind of quick little overview, I think the fonts and sizes are the same in all of these texts. I could be wrong, but I've never had any issue with the margin spacing. I don't annotate my books, or at least if I do, I don't write in them. I might underline or highlight, but I've never found the font size to be an issue for me, or the actual like kerning or boldness of the font. They all look like this. Purple spine. Oops, sorry. I'm out of focus here, but trust me, it says Sense and Sensibility. Okay. Next we have Mansfield Park. I read this for the first time in probably 2016. You can see that I did read this edition. I probably had some food on my grubby fingers when I was reading it, but this is, I think, of the Austens that I've read, my least favorite. I've read 4 out of the 6 novels, and I didn't really care for Fanny Price or really anyone in this book, but all the same. I'm not going to flip through all the rest of them, but anyways, this is these are chains, and then you have a little cross here. Emma. I have not read this edition. I read this book for the first time when I was probably in middle school, and I'm in my 30s now, so it's been a minute. I'd like to revisit it one day, but this is, I think, my second favorite, second to Pride and Prejudice. I have a feeling I will like Persuasion a lot, and maybe Northanger Abbey too. I'm not sure. I know that's kind of a contentious one, but I do enjoy Gothic fiction, and so I think I might enjoy kind of poking fun at Gothic fiction too. Anyways, Emma is a bold and brash character, and I think that she's charming in her own way, even though she is an unlikable main character to many. I find her relatable, so I've always enjoyed that one. And then lastly, Pride and Prejudice. Also haven't read this edition, although I intend to this summer, but this is the Austen that I've read more than one time already. The story of Lizzie Bennet, and Mr. Darcy, who is the bachelor love interest. You can't go wrong with Pride and Prejudice. This is always where it's recommended people start, and for good reason. It's accessible. I think I read this for the first time as like a 5th or 6th grader, which is what, 11, 12 years old maybe. And it was a challenge for me then, don't get me wrong. I mean, the vocabulary and the language style were very new to me at that age, but I got the gist, you know, as a 5th or 6th grader. And I've only grown to enjoy it more as the years have gone on, and the vocabulary has become more accessible to me. Okay, so that's the 6 Austen novels I've got there. I only have 2 Brontes, so Villette and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I love this edition. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I think, is one of the prettiest of all of the Penguin English Library. Just to give you a close-up of what this design looks like. A beautiful manor house. And then we have the synopsis. I have a feeling I'm really going to like this. I haven't read either Villette or Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I've read other Brontes, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, and I've loved both of them. I especially liked Wuthering Heights of the 2. So I feel like The Tenant of Wildfell Hall might be more my speed than Villette, just given how similar Villette is to Jane Eyre from what I've heard, but we'll see. Time will tell. This is also a gorgeous edition. These 2, I think I bought physically in a Waterstones in Ireland in, oh gosh, probably 2017. So it's been a while. Some of these I've bought in person in the UK. Most I've gotten online for less than $15 US. I think that they sell in the UK under, oh yeah, you can see here. The cost is like $8.99 for, this is 1984, and it's a 300-page book here. Let me find a thick one. Villette, oh, actually cheaper, interestingly, $6.99 pounds, 12 Canadian. And then if you can find free shipping, yeah, I think that's a pretty affordable paperback. Granted, they are very delicate. Well, not very. I mean, they've got some sturdiness to it, but because it's a true paper and there's no like glossy veneer, they're a little bit, you know, more sensitive on the corners of the pages than some of the American editions you might find, but I don't mind it. With the exception of that one grubby finger that got on my Mansfield Park, I'm usually pretty gentle with my books. So it's not too much of an issue. Anyways, we have 1984 here. George Orwell's totalitarian regime book. I'm looking forward to getting back into this. I have picked it up before, but I've never actually finished it. So this is on my to-do list for this year as well. It's an election year in America. What better time to read 1984 than now? So I think this will be entertaining and seeing many a parallel. This is another, probably my second favorite of all of the editions, or all of the copies that I have. Elizabeth and Her German Garden by Elizabeth von Arnim, if I'm not mistaken. This is such a sweet, kind of delightful novel, and it's so short, if you can tell. It is, let's see, let me go to the end of the book itself. I think there might be an afterword. It's 100 pages, 103 maybe, 105. So it's a little thing, but I just think that's so pretty. Okay. Next up, we have 2 Hardys. We have Tess of the D'Urbervilles, with some chickens or roosters. I can't tell the difference. If anyone knows, I think it's a rooster from the little feather head thing, but if anyone knows the difference, holler, let me know. I would love the education there. I've heard this is a very sad book. I think this will be kind of an autumnal or winter read for me, just because of how depressing I've heard it is. It just seems like, you know, hit after hit. You know, Tess is a likable character and just the world is never working in her favor. So, well, I'll leave that for a more depressing time of year. Far from the Madding Crowd. I love this edition too. The Bumblebees. This is by Thomas Hardy. And it is the story of Bathsheba. lost my train of thought there. Anyways, we have Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I read this probably about 5 years ago now. I think it's probably 2019. I think I read it pre-pandemic. I enjoyed this, but not my favorite. I don't think that, when was this published? 18th century? Let me see if I can find. So Daniel Defoe died in the early 18th century, so I'm thinking it was sometime before that. Let's see if there's anything in the publication data. First published 1719. I love when you can actually see that, when they actually tell you when a book was published and not when the edition was published. I don't care when Penguin came out with this. I want to know when Defoe wrote Crusoe. But again, very pretty cover. I like the green. This is, I think, the only true green that I have in the mix on the shelves. Okay, next is a chunk. We've got Middlemarch by George Eliot. This is, I think, almost 900 pages. The text ends on, oh, this is still text. Finale. Ends on 919. And then look at Zadie Smith, who wrote White Teeth. Did the afterword, which sounds like a great time. I'm looking forward to getting to this one day. I don't think this is going to be something that I attempt to read this year, but maybe next year. This seems like it would be a summer read for me. I do love a good chunky classic in the summertime. Right now I'm reading Stalingrad by Vasily Grossman, which is a Russian classic that precedes his Life and Fate, which is probably his most well-known work. But anyways, I digress. That's like 1,000 pages, but a good, summer read to kind of get through slowly, bit by bit, over the course of many months. And I think I'll do the same for Middlemarch when the time rolls around. Okay, this is the last of the ones that I've read in the Penguin English Library edition. We have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. And this is a great Gothic masterpiece. This edition also includes The Bottle Imp, which starts on page 74. So just to give you an idea of how short Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is, that's only 74 pages. And then The Bottle Imp is another probably 30 or so. I have not read The Bottle Imp, I will admit, but I have read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and enjoyed it. It wasn't totally my cup of tea, but I can see why others enjoy it. It's one of those classics that I'm like, I get why this is a classic. It's just not my classic, if that makes sense. In terms of books with similar tones, I think I preferred Frankenstein and The Picture of Dorian Gray to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in terms of the sort of Gothic masterpiece from the 19th century. But anyways, I enjoyed it. It was a good time. I might revisit that one day and see if I like it more on a second read through. And then I have 3 editions from Elizabeth Gaskell. The first is North and South, with some pretty, spools of thread. I think this will be the Gaskell that I get to first. This is kind of comparing northern and southern England in the 19th century and how that influenced kind of class culture. You might have a little bit more nuanced dialect in here, based on like the working class versus the more aristocratic classes in England at the time. But this should make for a good read. And I think this is also a kind of hefty one. Yeah, a little over 500 pages in here. Okay, 2 more. Actually, I have read this. I lied. This is the last one that I have read. Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. This was so sweet. Cranford is a town, made up town in England. And it's just the stories of all of the townspeople. If anyone enjoys Miss Marple, basically, if you removed the mystery and murder components of Miss Marple and just enjoyed the sort of town dynamics of everyone knowing each other's business and, always relating to one another's, stories via, their long history together, you might like Cranford. It's a short book as well, about 200 pages, and it's so sweet. This is actually the only edition that I have that isn't a true like paper. I don't know if you can tell from the sound that it makes. Maybe if I get up closer you can tell. But it's more rubberized, whereas this is like a this feels like construction paper almost in terms of the texture, and this has a sort of smoothness to it, almost a rubbery quality, that makes it much more durable. And I wish all of them had this texture, but it's okay. I'll live. This was first published in 1853, for anyone wondering. I also like this deep blue-green color here. But had a great time with this one. And it makes me want to pick up more Gaskell because of how charming I found all of her characters. And then last but not least, this is the last Penguin English Library edition that I own. We have Wives and Daughters by the same author, Elizabeth Gaskell. And this is the story of 17-year-old Molly Gibson and her family, and the sort of stepmother, stepsister relationships that she develops after that remarriage. But yeah, I think I'll do North and South before I do this one. I've just heard such great things about North and South. I think it'll appeal to me, although this does sound like a great time too. And this one is about 760 pages, so also kind of chunky. But that wraps up the whole list. I'm actually going to, I'll take a picture and make it my, what is it, like my screen grab, my, what am I trying to say? Like the picture that defines the video. I'll make that a whole stack so that you can just see how they look together, because it is really pretty. I mean, you can kind of see from what I'm doing here, and I'll tilt it a little, but they really do look gorgeous together. This might even be too many. I feel like I'm making a mistake here. But you get the idea. I mean, they're super pretty on a shelf. Let me throw these in the mix as well. So that concludes my video. I will put a link in the description. There we go. That's a little better. A link in the description so you can figure out where to purchase them if you are in the US. I think Blackwell sells them with free shipping. I can't speak for other international shipping from the UK, but Blackwell's has worked well enough for me. And that way you know which edition that you're getting, which I like. But anyways, thanks for tuning in today to Books and Budgets. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.